You are listening to the Good Girl Podcast. I am Cameo King, your host. The Good Girl Podcast is a podcast of women's confessions about our flaws, faith, femininity, and culture. Every single week, we have a person on sharing a confession because, you know, life can get messy. And I want to destigmatize this messy process of life. I want to ensure that we understand that it is okay to basically mess up, to learn, to grow, and to evolve. And when we have these conversations, I call those conversations confessions. So if you're listening, y'all, we made it. Is that the is that the sound you're supposed to make? I feel like I sound like a chicken. Chicken head. We are in the last quarter of 2020. And I'm learning to celebrate any and everything, y'all. I will celebrate every day of the week that ends with day, because you and I will never, ever get to experience this moment in time, in history, ever again. So I create joy where I am. And most of the times, all I need is a little beat, a little... And just, y'all like that beat? It sounds like I'm about to blow or something. But most of the times, all I need is a little beat and just enough space to move my hips. But this is the season opener for fall 2020. And actually, last season, we actually did something a little bit different. We typically stop around May. But for this year, we went all the way through August because everything that was happening in the world, and there was so much that we needed to talk about and so many confessions we needed to share, and just having an outlet amid, you know, just this process of what's happening in the U.S., this birthing of folks and rebirthing of what we believe our society should be, how we believe it should show up for some of the most vulnerable folks in our society, especially Black women. And so that last season, we did go all the way through to essentially August. And my God, did y'all come through. Like, y'all came through with the listenership. Do y'all know my numbers quadrupled? Like, quadrupled. Not doubled, not tripled, quadrupled. I looked into my stats and I was like I did the door blink. Like, Jesus is real? Is this real? So shout out to y'all. Shout out to the new folks in the Good family. Shout out to those who have been with me from day one. I think of those like JJ. I think of those like Shakira. I appreciate y'all. Those who have shared and subscribed and sent messages, DMs. I appreciate all of y'all. And so because of this, we're trying to go bigger and better this current season. I'm putting some works with my faith. And if you haven't noticed, we stepped our game up just a little bit. I don't know if y'all saw my face on the podcast cover. Did you like that? Did you like that? Also, if y'all saw the new website, did y'all see the new website? The new website looks nice too. And so I'm really excited because I want this movement of women showing up as their authentic selves and in a space where they are able to grow and evolve without shame. Because again, destigmatizing the messy process of life is essential to our growth and also how we bring in the next generation, right? So before the year is up, I'm expecting higher numbers and great paid partnerships. So holler at your girl. So on to the topic at hand. So we are in the final quarter of 2020. And while it has been challenging and eye-opening, it has also forced many of us to grow in ways that we did not even know existed. Whether it was living without a loved one, a new perspective of how deep racism and sexism in this world and country really goes, or even acknowledging the need for our own internal work. You know, it has been a mosh pit of a lot of stuff, but I want to be very careful with my words because a lot can happen in these last 3 months. Hell, a lot can happen in the next 60 seconds, right? A lot of greatness, a lot of revelation, a lot of growth. So I really don't have a word, maybe an expression or anything to describe the year, but the best expression I can come up with is, I call it the Kerry Washington almost cry face, right? The one with no tears though. So it's the Kerry Washington almost cry face. Like that is one visual that I can think of to represent how maybe a lot of us feel right now. Another one, this was a little bit personal. It was this one time I had my heart set on a pound cake, a slice of pound cake during Christmas. And my aunt, who has a record, I'm going to say like a 30-year record of making amazing pound cakes. So it was set out, and it was like, it only had like one or two slices, and it was set out. So I sliced a big old slice, and I was wondering, like, how come ain't nobody else eating this? Why come y'all ain't eating this? That was my thought process. But what I came to find out is that my aunt, she accidentally, for the first time in history, she accidentally made it with salt instead of sugar. And so when I had that first bite, when my taste buds met reality, that expression, that's the best way I can describe 2020. Like you have these great expectations, but then boom, reality hits you, and you're kind of, I don't want to say disappointed, but you're hurt. I was hurt, y'all, when I had that pound cake. I was like, I looked at my aunt like, how could you? And the funny thing about it is she just walked by. She was like, yeah, I accidentally put some salt instead of sugar. And I'm like, well, why would y'all leave the cake out? Why would you? So I was hurt and angry. But here we are. Here we are in 2020, and I gave those examples because first, again, our expectations of 2020 have been completely turned on its head, and second, we are unsure of how to respond to these type of events or even what is next. We've come face to face with uncertainty. We live in it, we breathe in it, more so than we have ever before. So what I want to do is I want to share 3 principles that are going to make all the difference in the world as we live out the rest of 2020. I want us to get the most out of 2020. And I think one of the ways, if not the way, is if we live out this principle, which is, very simply put, mind your business. Mind your business. Mind your business. Mind your business. Y'all know singing is not my ministry, but I love to do it. I know that's kind of harsh, but I'm going to unpack what I mean by mind your business. And I want to be clear that I ask myself this very often, and I also get asked by my friend Danielle Moore, who's a licensed therapist. Shout out to the Refresh Wellness Center. She's actually going to come out with a book about minding your business. And she's just going to eloquently pontificate on why it's so important to mind your business. But anyway, she asks me oftentimes, Cameo, are you minding your business? And I pause. And I even ask myself before I'm about to comment on somebody's status, before I'm about to, just take a 20-minute break about something because something knocked me off my square, I ask myself, is this your business? Is this your business? So I'll unpack that in 3 principles. But first, let me tell you why it's so important, though, especially now. In 2020, our very foundation has been shaken. We all know this. The way we do life is in question, our economy, the structure of our faith, how we connect with people, even our education system. There are uncertainties all around us. And when we are uncertain, we tend to grab at things that we think will secure us. And that's just human nature. It makes sense. If I'm on sinking sand, I tend to grab at whatever is around me to secure me. Right? If the foundation I'm on is crumbling, I'm going to grab at something around me to secure. So it's preservation, it's life preservation. And some of the things we sincerely grab at when our foundation is being shaken, we grab at our titles, we grab at our relationship status, our friend groups, jobs, money. All these things, though, can be gone in an instant, right? And let me be extremely clear as well. What I'm not saying is that those things do not matter or that they do not hold value or are not important to the healthy development of a stable individual or society, right? What I am saying is it cannot be our foundation, and 2020 has proven that. So where does that leave us in 2020? How can we get the most? How can we get the best out of the rest of these 3 months? I'm going to say 3 months. and a week, because I don't want to discount, because so much stuff can happen. So much stuff. Listen, today, as I am recording this, they released the, the indictment of one of 3 officers for Breonna Taylor. So I don't know what the world is going to look like in 3 hours. I don't know. So I'm not going to discount, this week, because we got more than 3 months left to go. But how can we get the most out of the rest of 2020? How can we walk in freedom? How can we be healed? How can I live my best life if nothing is certain, right? And it comes down to, like I said, minding your business. And I say that metaphorically and literally. Literally meaning, what is your business? Like, what is your business? What brings you in money? Do you sell products or a service? What do you put your hands to in work? And you need to be minding that, right? Second, as a metaphor, you may not have a literal business, but you do have things that you are accountable for, whether it is your bills, your emotions, another life, be it a human or a pet. But that is something that you should be minding. I'm going to throw your health in there too, but that is something that you should be minding. So when I say mind your business, and I'm going to soften it a little bit, but when I say mind your business, what I'm asking us to do, and again, I want to be clear, I'm not just telling y'all to do this. I have to tell myself this constantly. Camille, are you minding your business? And this is something that's interesting, because this is what I started 2020 off with, about minding your business. Like, that was one of my, principles that I wanted to live out in 2020, is to wholeheartedly mind my business, right? So when I say I want to soften this a little bit, when I say mind your business, what I'm asking us to do is to prioritize the internal work of us, of you, of me, so you can become the highest and best expression of yourself. Now, on the flip side, mind your business does not mean ignoring the community you live in. It does not mean continue to be selfish and self-serving. It is not an excuse for you or anyone to ignore or be insensitive to the very real atrocities that are happening. It means prioritizing yourself. So let's unpack the 3 principles of minding your business. Number 1, it is your healing, right? It is your healing. We live in an imperfect construct where no matter how well our parents did, no matter how great of a community we exist in, no matter how close we are to God, no matter how many books you read, or even how much therapy you've had, we will show up as an imperfect, flawed human. And when we are unhealed, we tend to project onto other folks. We act out. We have unhealthy behaviors like being overly positive and anxiety, substance abuse, perfectionism. These are all ways that an unhealed person and trauma and things we go through can manifest. And this is why healing is so important, because it affects the very nature of our lives. It affects our relationships. It affects how we exist. So when we are healed, we become more whole and are able to love better, have better relationships, and are able to simply exist within ourselves, community, and purpose better, with peace, with love. And getting on a pathway to that healing is paramount as we close out of 2020. And I want to be clear too, healing is not a destination, it is a journey. There are things that will hurt and offend us in the future, that have hurt and have offended us now, whether it is a new relationship, whether it is this society, I was about to curse, whether it was this society, whether it was losing a loved one, a job, or even expectations we had for ourselves in our lives, we will need healing. Number 2, and the minding your business principles, do what you are called to do. Are you called to teach? Are you called to heal? Are you called to speak truth to power, design, build? Find what you are called to do and focus on that, and that is it. I think many of us find ourselves in situations that distract, drain, and even frustrate us and limit the unique time we have available in 2020 because we're not doing what we're called to do. This shows up in running our mouth on social media, It shows up in being in other folks' relationships on social media. It shows up in us running our mouth, displaying our own ignorance, and showing our behind in a public space of social media. And the reason why I'm so much on social media, because I believe right now, for the most part, that's the only space we have to interact and socialize to remain safe and to stay healthy. And so a lot of us have been on social media a lot, sharing a lot. And some of us have been snoozed a lot, because some of us just out here showing our whole behind, right? And when I say this does not mean that you can't involve yourself in other areas outside of your purpose. Like, you can't have an opinion, you can't talk about something outside of your purpose. No, it means you have to ask yourself what this said activity truly is doing for you, and even doing for society at large. I think about it like this. If we count up the emotional labor, the energy, and the time, and the things we have involved ourselves in, does it hold real value? Value like spending time with loved ones, like being light, making this world a better place for you and I. So corny, I know, but that's what it comes down to. And I want to paint a clear picture there as well. There are some things that you are called to be a part of that connect to your purpose. Things like intelligently speaking on a certain topic, or adding to a conversation, or even challenging a conversation, but that also points you back to your purpose. And I just don't know if a large chunk of our time is best spent harshly judging people and their choices, people that we'll never meet. And we do that on social media a lot, right? And which brings me to number three, which I think is the most important, and it supersedes all of those things, and it probably points back to both 1 and 2, and it is following your gut. And I call that the Holy Spirit. That's how I understand it. The Holy Spirit is an internal guide that helps you navigate through the nuances of life. You know, those gray areas that only you and God can understand. It will give you direction with precision. It may not seem like it in the moment, because that for me, it wasn't precision a couple times. But if you cultivate the Holy Spirit, if you cultivate your gut and listen to it, it will make sense. A quick story. A long time ago, I had leased a Ford Fusion, and I went to visit my brother and babysit my godson in Southfield, Michigan, and I stayed in Lansing, and so it's an hour outside of they're an hour apart for those of you guys who aren't in Michigan. And when I got to my brother's place, it was pretty late, but I pulled into a parking space, and something told me, don't park here. And I felt it too. And I said, okay, well, I'll just park in front of where I'm parking. And I felt that same thing, like, don't park here. But what did I do? Cameo ignored it. Cameo parked her car exactly. And y'all, it would have taken me like 1 second to park somewhere else. I was just being lazy. And so I parked where I parked. I got out, and then the next day, and this was a new car for me. And so the next day, when my friend had dropped off her son, she was like, "Oh, Cameo, I want to see your new car." I said, "Oh, okay." And she was like, "What is it?" I said, "Oh, it's a black Ford Fusion." And she was like, "Oh, I don't see it out there." I said, "Girl, it is out there. Like, I parked in the front." And she said, "The only Ford Fusion I see out here is on bricks." Oh my God, y'all. That story couldn't have been more like I couldn't make it up. And when she said that, I'm like, oh no, she lying. I went outside, and sure enough was my car out there on 4 bricks, yo. And I said, you know what? I don't even know if you can be mad, because the Holy Spirit told your little happy tail not to park here. I said, you're right. I was mad though. I was hurt too. But here we are. So the Holy Spirit is important, especially as we move into 2020. It may convict you. It may cause you to pause, cause you to trust, have you make business decisions, or even give you some insight, Cameo, on something that you have the slightest knowledge about. And I think more than ever, as we understand the chaos, or maybe organized chaos of 2020, or whatever is happening in this season, whatever it's supposed to be birthed out of this season, and not knowing what tomorrow will bring, or the next 3 months, or even 2020, I think it is imperative to cultivate that guide, that gut, that hunch, the Holy Spirit, so we can make it through. So for the rest of the 2020, what are we gonna do? Mind our business. Mind your business. Just mind your business. If you don't know that reference, then you're too young. So y'all, I am super excited about minding the business of the Good Girl podcast. We have some dope confessions coming up. Some about sex in the church, laying in the sand, just you and me, hand to hand, come on. Okay, so just a little note there. That's not how the song really goes. It's Sex on the Beach. And if you don't know the song, you're probably not from Detroit, because I think it is a Detroit song. It's like one of the house music, and it kind of speeds up, and you do it in a club. Anyway, other topics: Black women and pleasure, the imposter syndrome, body shaming, all of that. We got all these topics where we have individuals coming on confessing about their role, their revelation in some of these things. So if you want to be free, if you want to confess, if you want to share your story, DM us, inbox us, send us a smoke signal. I have a form right on the website where you can fill out, this is what my confession is, and I want to be a part of the show. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook, y'all. We also keep the conversation going there. We will have something new. We did it once this last year, early in 2020, where we had Unpacking the Podcast. And so what we do is for the highest rated show of the month, we bring the guest back with one listener and also with our regular contributor, Danielle Moore, who's a licensed mental health therapist. And we have a live discussion on the book. And so we get to unpack the podcast. Maybe it was a question I missed. Maybe it was something you wanted to add. Maybe it's something you wanted to ask. And so we can get more out of these podcasts. So make sure you are following us on the gram, and make sure you have liked us on Facebook. And last but certainly not least, if you like the work we do, please support us. This business does not run on its own. It runs on my funds and on the faith of the Lord, and by wonderful supporters like you. I appreciate y'all, because listen, I got some good supporters. Let's be really clear. Like, y'all come through. Let's be really clear. So as you continue to support the Good Girl podcast, please, it can be something as simple as sharing the podcast, as making a comment on something on Instagram, leaving a comment on the Apple podcast so that boosts our ratings. Also, you can purchase some merchandise. We got sweatshirts, t-shirts, mugs, all of that. And also, because you're listening, and because you're a part of the Good Family, always use the code GOODFAMILY. You can get you a nice little discount. So, as always, thank you for listening to the Good Girl podcast. I'm so excited about the confessions, y'all. I just hold on to your seats. Hold on to your seats. Judge me if you want, but we gonna get free. Thank you for listening to the Good Girl podcast.